Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Johnny Paycheck coming at you from the dirty Duval. It's a great day here in the Sunshine State, so I wanted to jump on and tell you to quit wasting time going to smoke shops and jiffy stores to get your smoking materials. Enjoy your day and have that shit sent right to your house. Keep it simple, stoner. Stop spending all your De Niro, Scratch, Skrilla, whatever you call it, on all that shit too, and go to dollarblazeclub.com and use promo code CWPR25 and get 25% off. That's the highest discount you'll see anywhere. And if there's one thing the Red knows, it's how high. Timbo! What's up, y'all? This is Paycheck and Red.
And we just wanted to hop on real quick and let you know about Roughneck Beard Company.
As the epitome of growth, beards are often the first impression. Roughneck believes that to make the best impression on the world, that beard should represent you. They believe that every man should have the tools they need to reach their own beard excellence and the confidence to grow personally alongside their facial hair. Itchy, dry, and patchy beards are a problem that no man should have to live with in order to be bearded and proud.
Roughneck Beard Company uses locally sourced, as often as possible, 100% all-natural and organic ingredients combined with a fine-tuned balance of science and art to pack the most beard benefit into each of their premium products. Roughneck Beard Company are facial hair professionals. They know beards and mustaches inside and out, and they offer that knowledge to you via these products, in hopes that every beard and beard-to-be will find the tools for the job readily available.
You can go find Roughneck at roughneckbeardcompany.com
and put in promo code Paycheck15 to save 15% off of your order.
Growth in all things.
What's up, party people? This is Conversations with Paycheck and Red.
an inappropriate comedy podcast.
Have you ever taken a photo of your own butthole?
Do you enjoy the smell of hot dog water?
Do you have random conversations about dildos?
Well, this is the podcast for you.
Just two good old boys who have no holds barred conversation.
All while laughing inappropriately.
Yep, that's right, listeners. Paycheck and Red have gotten themselves into another inappropriate conversation.
Three, two. Frank, do you have notes on our last CWPR meeting?
He didn't make copies of the itinerary.
Hey, run that over to Red, would you? All right, ready? In 3, 2, 1. What's up, muff huggers? Thanks for tuning in. This is an inappropriate comedy podcast. I'm Paycheck, and as always, I'm with my boy Red.
What's up, party people? This episode is brought to you by Red's Bong Rips, keeping Clear Eyes in business since 420.
Oh my god, you sound like a fucking ghost.
He did. Oh, he was taking a really good crap.
Well, who's that? Who's that in the background? Red? Who's that guy?
That is Mr. David Dorney.
Evening, gentlemen.
This man is a mountain of a man with buttery smooth charisma. Joining us all the way from St. Louis. If this man doesn't make your pants quake, check your pulse. The all-time champion of getting folks off of lawns, known for his fiery fist shake, being king of early bird dining and the master of resting his eyes for a minute. He don't need your rocking chair, but he's got some hard candy for you. Welcome to the show, Mr. Dorney.
Thank you, guys. Nice to be here.
That was quite the introduction there, Red.
Hey, he's quite the man.
Yeah, Mr. Dorney, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you very much.
So, for all of our listeners, would you mind telling us, just the basics, like age, where you're from?
I'm 55 years old. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, by way of numerous stops along the way. Originally, I'm from Central Illinois.
You said you're how old?
55.
Yeah, I thought so. Red thought you were 65.
Oh, no. Come on, do I look that old, Red?
Does he look that old, Red?
I'm just going on,
Gray hair.
the way he talks, the stuff he talks about, the time periods that he reminisces from. I mean,
Are you a little embarrassed right now?
It was a guess. No, I'm not.
Well, for the record, he is not 65. He's 55.
We know that now. We know that now. Moving on.
Where you said you were you from Illinois?
Yes, sir. I was born in Paris, Illinois, and lived the majority of my life just throughout Central Illinois, Southern Illinois. Mattoon for a while, Shelbyville for a while, Bridgeport, Lawrenceville area for a while growing up. My folks moved a lot, and I think that kind of transferred to me, so I moved a lot as an adult.
Do you have any siblings?
I've got numerous. I've got 3 brothers and a sister that's deceased, a half brother and a half sister that I haven't spoken to, and the half brother in 40 plus years, and the half sister, and I'm in touch with her on Facebook, but I haven't seen her in person in probably 40 years.
Wow. What took you to St. Louis?
I was living in a town of about 20,000 people in Central Illinois, and I was in a job that wasn't going anywhere and was real burnout. Small town with 2 ex-wives and limited job opportunities, so it seemed like a good time to relocate somewhere where I could start fresh, and St. Louis was only a couple hours away. Had an opportunity to come down here and took it.
So you had a job opportunity and everything squared away before you moved there?
I had a job opportunity, had a gal that wanted me to move in with her, so it was just kind of an easy decision.
So when you were a kid, you lived with I heard you say step brother, step sister. So of course that means that your parents divorced and remarried and had kids?
Yes. Oddly enough.
So your childhood.
At one time, my stepfather was my uncle.
Shit.
My stepdad's first wife was my biological father's sister.
What?
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's take it back
So my stepdad and my mom knew each other because their spouses were brother and sister.
Wow.
So I suspect there might have been a little bit going on, but that was all, prior to me being 3 years old or so. So I don't really know my biological father. I was raised by my stepdad. To me, he's my dad, and that's kind of pretty much how it's always been. But I grew up with 7 kids in the house, and it was kind of like the Waltons.
So when you in your childhood, when you were, let's take it back to your earliest memory, not a toddler or whatever, but let's say 5 years old. How many kids were in the house, and were you living with your real mom and your real dad at around 5 years old?
At 5 years old, I was living with my mom and my stepdad.
Wait. I'm sorry. Say that again.
I was living with my mom and my stepdad at 5.
Oh, wow.
My mom got remarried when I was 3, and my biological father paid for the adoption cost for me and my older brother and sister, so that he wouldn't have to pay child support.
Wow. And I'm assuming she gave him that option.
Yes.
Wow.
And he jumped at it. He had a new girlfriend and was all ready to move on with his life, and that's fine. You know, that's choices we make.
Well, did you have a good childhood?
Yeah, it was all right. You know, I mean, we moved a lot, but with that many brothers and sisters, there was always something going on, and you know, there were more good times than bad times.
You ever accidentally walk in on your sister in the bathtub?
Probably.
Yeah.
Not that it really springs to mind, but I'm sure that at some time, you know, that would have been a lot of years ago.
You ever
45, 50 years ago.
You ever got caught masturbating?
Yeah, by my half sister, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was under the covers, so, but I mean, it was, I think, obvious what I was doing.
Are you a masturbator?
I think all men are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Even at this age, yeah, I will admit to that. I think my girl would encourage it.
When you growing up, did you play any sports?
Growing up, I played all sports: baseball, basketball, football. You know,
Really?
I grew up in a real basketball-heavy environment, like maybe 10 miles from the Indiana line, so damn near a Hoosier.
Yeah.
The year that I would have graduated from high school, had I stayed in that area, and the following year they went back-to-back undefeated seasons and state championships, and those were all kids that I grew up, you know, playing against and beating on the courts, and I listened to my state championships sitting in a cell in the county jail awaiting my sentencing. So that was a rather disappointing moment in life.
So that was in your teenage years.
Yes.
All right, let's move into your teenage years. So, does you got your first girlfriend as a teenager, I assume?
Yeah.
Do you remember your first real deal girlfriend's name?
I think so. I think her
What
name
is-
was Stacy.
Stacy?
Uh-huh.
How old were you?
Probably 13,
Yeah. What age did you lose your virginity?
14.
14 to Stacy?
No, someone else.
Damn, at 14, that's kind of young, I think.
I wasn't complaining.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't. All right, so junior high was good to you? Were you popular? Were you part of a clique?
No, I was never really in the popular crowd. I was one of the really smart students. From first through 8th grade, I was like a straight A student. I didn't miss. I was one of them that I could read something and it stuck, and I didn't really have to study. It all came almost too easy. Now, if I brought home less than an A, you know, I'd be in trouble at home because it just became expected of me. You know, which later in life I think caused some problems and led to some resentment because that same standard wasn't level across the playing field with all the kids.
Yeah, high expectations.
But as a kid, my test scores were off the charts. You know, I read voraciously. You know, my mom was in a book club, and we would argue over who would get the books to read when they came in because I was reading at the same level she was by the 8th grade.
You enjoy reading?
Yes.
All right, so you mentioned jail time. So let's get into that. Were you a troubled youth?
It kind of went that way. Everything was pretty normal up until the time my folks got divorced, and that kind of splintered the family into all different directions and threw me into a situation that I didn't deal with well at all. So I went from being a straight A student and the model kid to missing over 100 days of school the following year, being arrested for truancy, and arrested 2 other times for various other charges.
Well, what was the turning point?
When my parents got divorced, I went from a family with 7 kids and both my parents and living out in the country in a pretty stable environment to, for a few months, being shipped off to live with a grandmother who was a hateful old shrew. And then when I finally got moved back with my mom, it was me and my mom and my older brother, who was and has always been kind of a ne'er-do-well. Mom was working second shift, so the only supervision I had was my brother, who wanted to run around and smoke a bunch of pot and stuff like that. And the only way to do that and babysit me was to drag me along and have me do the same thing. So at that point, things changed drastically. And I was an extremely shy, quiet kid. So to take me out of a small town environment where I knew everybody in the school and drop me into a new school in a much larger town where I didn't know a soul really threw me for a loop, on top of my parents getting divorced right at that time and everything else. And I didn't handle any of it well. And at the same time, my mother was going into a spell where she had some severe mental issues. So the situation at home became abusive at the same time. And then just dealing with her completely going off the deep end, suicide attempts and everything else for the rest of my teenage years.
Your mom?
Yeah.
So when you say abusive, you're talking about physically and verbally?
Yeah. Like choked to the point where you would wake up laying on the floor.
What?
Choked till you blacked out. Going to school the next day in a school where you don't know anybody, and you're trying to blend in and fit in, and you can see each individual finger mark and the thumb marks in the center where you've been strangled.
Nobody said anything?
No.
That wasn't a big deal back then.
My high school years were from 78 to 82.
Yeah.
People turned the other cheek. They didn't want to know. And even had they wanted to know, you're a 14, 15-year-old kid. How do you tell people your mom's stone cold crazy and choke the shit out of you for some minor slight or offense that may or may not have actually happened? Your mom's the only person left, your mom and your brother, out of your big family network that you've got left to hold on to.
Well, I think that's a small problem with what's going on in society today, is that people ain't choking their damn kids out anymore. We're just trying to find humor in the situation. You know what I mean? That silver lining.
Yeah. So my life at that point changed, and like I say, the choices I made weren't good.
Yeah, but wait a minute. So what age was this where the physical abuse started happening? Remind me again. It was in high school, correct?
It had happened off and on.
But at some point you became to where you could physically defend yourself. At some point, I'm sure you could manhandle her when you got to a certain age, couldn't you?
You don't raise your hands to your mom.
Yeah, I hear that.
You're raised just like I was. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. My mom ain't never tried to choke me out. Well, I'm pretty sure I would have hit that bitch.
That was eventually
Come
just
on.
for me leaving home at 16. There was an occasion at the dinner table where she was riding my ass about something that one of my buddies had done. Wasn't even anything I had done. And I'm just trying to eat my supper so I can get the fuck out of there and not have to hear this anymore. So I'm not paying enough attention to what she's bitching at me about. So
you're doing
so she reaches across the table and palms me in the fucking forehead.
Wow.
And I just blanked and came out of my chair and flipped the kitchen table. And her husband jumped up in between, and she said, "Get the fuck out." At the same time, I said, "I'm getting the fuck out." And the next day I packed my shit and started hitchhiking across the
How old were you when you did that?
16 by about a month.
So you hitchhiked across the country?
Yeah, all around the country.
That was the destination, or there was no destination in mind. You just wanted to travel.
There was no specific destination in mind. I was on probation in Illinois, so I didn't really want to be found. So it was destination a week at a time. I started out, I went to Memphis. From Memphis, I went to Tulsa. I hooked up with my older brother in Tulsa. I hitchhiked around with him for a few months. Then he dropped back off and went to live with some chick, and I ended up clear the fuck up in Wyoming and Montana, and then hooked up with a carnival and toured for the rest of the season with them, sleeping in my joint and talking people out of their money. 16 years old.
Well, wait a minute. Let's back up just a little bit. You skipped over a lot. So
wild times.
Yeah. So when you were younger, though, I'm trying to figure out the turning point here. Whenever you went from good grades to juvenile delinquent, like what particular time or what particular instance did you steal something? What did your brother make you do? Did you have to beat somebody up? I mean, what was the first thing you remember doing maliciously, I guess you could say?
The first thing I can remember doing maliciously would have gone back, way the hell back to maybe third grade or so. Growing up, I was a huge baseball fan as a little kid. And I would occasionally, back then everybody collected baseball cards. Got the stick of gum in there. And I would occasionally swipe a pack of baseball cards. At that time, they were 10 cents a pack.
Right.
So way back then, I would on occasion snag a pack of baseball cards. I got caught doing it one time and had to call my parents and have them bring the dime down there, and got my ass in trouble.
Right.
But so, as far back as that, I was, like any other kid, I was, being a kid.
Right. So what whenever you left home at 16, what were you on probation for that you were leaving and trying not to be found and all that?
All right, was still all the way through the end of my 8th grade year a straight A student. And it was right towards the end of my 8th grade year that my folks split up and I got shipped off to live with my grandmother for the last few months of 8th grade. And then over the course of the summer, my mom found an apartment. So I went from living in a big farmhouse in the country with a whole bunch of people to living in government housing in a town of about 25,000 people where I didn't know anybody. And the only supervision I had was my brother, who wanted to run around and party.
Yeah.
So I started running with him and making friends with his friends. So I'm making friends with all the wrong people and trying to be cool with them because, I don't know no better. I'm 14 years old.
Right. And
over the course of what would have been my freshman year of high school, I missed over 100 days of school being truant. So I was taken to court for truancy, spent a weekend in jail for that. And then a few months later, I got arrested for forgery, for stealing a checkbook and writing a bunch of checks. Because all of a sudden I'm turned loose in a big town with all this temptation. But I'm a fucking broke-ass kid from the middle of fucking nowhere, and I got no fucking money, and I want money, and I want to get out and do all this shit that I've never had access to in my life.
How many checks did you get to write before you got caught?
I think about 5, and none of them were for a whole lot of money, but, it was enough to still cop a forgery charge at 14 years old.
So that's the confusing thing. I don't know law outside of the states that I've lived in, but there's a juvenile process, so were you in boys homes or not boys homes, but like a juvenile detention center or anything like that?
No, I was given 2 years probation and told to pay restitution for the checks plus court costs and fees.
And you did all that?
Well, about 2 months after that, I got arrested again for criminal damage to property in excess of $1,000.
Oh, shit.
Going into an old closed down hospital building with some buddies and going berserk and smashing out windows throughout this whole 4 or 5 story building.
So what, the police showed up, and I guess that's still private property?
One of the people that lived across the road heard all that. We were racing down the aisles with gurneys and crashing through doors and breaking the windows out. And one of the neighbors heard the commotion. And the next thing you know, when we come out, all the cops are sitting outside waiting on us.
Yeah, did they have their
One of
guns
the
out?
windows-
Like, geez.
No, they didn't have any guns out. They were just all sitting on their cars waiting. One of the windows we broke was the maternity window where you look through at the babies, which is a huge piece of freaking glass, and that in itself was worth a bunch of money. So it was about $1,250 worth of restitution for that. And they restarted my 2 years probation. And I spent the next couple of years working a couple of evenings after school and basically every weekend and never getting to keep any of that money. I'd hand my check over to my mom and she'd put it in the bank and she'd take out X amount for rent and she would pay the rest to the court towards my restitution.
Wow.
And she even took some. You had to pay rent?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're going to fast forward just a second to the carnival. Just to pacify my curiosity, what specific ride or attraction did you oversee?
So I started out in a star shoot. And back then I had so much hair that you couldn't do anything with it. It was just a curly blonde afro. Huge freaking afro. And
Do you have any photos of that?
let's just say no. And then a little bit of peach fuzz. And I'm 16 years old, and if I'm out in the sun for 20 minutes, I just turn bronze. And I was a cute little kid, and I could talk people out of money. I looked harmless. I didn't look like I'd cheat anybody. So they put me in a star shoot, and I would milk people for money. At 16 years old, I could talk shit. And I learned real quick while I was hitchhiking that I had a bit of a gift. And I figured that out in a couple of eat and run situations where I was caught dead to rights and still managed to walk out the front door and be on down the road. One of them where I actually walked out the front door with a job offer to start the next day at noon. And the next day at noon, I was 300 miles down the road and smiling and eating on a sausage that I'd stole from the Hillshire Farm store on the way out of the mall.
So how does one become employed by a carnival where you just randomly walked up on?
I randomly walked up and asked where the boss was at, and they pointed me towards one of the joints, and there's where I got lucky. I walked in with no idea at all. I could have just as easily walked up to a ride and said, "Where's the boss?" But this particular carnival had a boss for the rides and a boss for the joints. And I walked up to a joint, said, "Where's the boss?" And they pointed me to another joint. I walked over and said, "You guys doing any hiring?" Thinking I would just work while the show was in town. I need some money from town to town. Now, you get to a town, you stay for a week. Now, you can eat a few free meals here and there, and you can run a few scams and pick up a few bucks here and there, and you can survive for a week without doing a whole lot. But if you can pick up some day labor where you're getting paid at the end of the day or at the end of the week just to get you to the next town or just to stay another week where you're at, that's always handy. So I'm thinking I'll work for the carnival for the week, and when they blast out of town, I'm done. I'm going to figure out where I'm going next.
Right.
So at the end of the week, I'd made pretty good money for them. You know, people are shooting out stars, and I didn't even look. Yeah, they're still red on there, and I'd snatch the paper off and throw it on the pile. And if they question it, I'd just pick up one that had red on it and say, "See, there's red." I wasn't giving away a prize. It wasn't a joint that was made to give away prizes.
Right.
And I was real good at getting people, "Man, look how fucking close you were." I'd show them another paper off the pile that had just a little bit of red. "Man, you're that close. Sure you don't want to try again?" And I'd get people to stand there and pay and pay and pay and then be all pissed off. So at the end of the week, they came up and said, "Hey, you want to go with us to the next stop?" I said, "Well, I guess I can." You know,
How far was the next stop? I'm assuming that
The
they hit
next
every damn
stop
city.
next stop was like 60 miles.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad, but it was somewhere else to go. and I didn't really have anywhere else to go. It wasn't like I was going anywhere. So the next stop happened to be Cody, Wyoming. I'd like to go to Cody, Wyoming. Let's go. So that's where I went next. And, it worked out well. I could sleep in my joint, fold the awning down at night, roll out my sleeping bag, crawl in there and crash. They had a shower set up on one of the trailers so you could shower. You could take a daily draw and get a little bit of your pay every day. Go out and buy you some food, buy you some booze. Back then, nobody carded anybody, and most places were 18, so I was drinking regular at 16, or some of the other carnies would buy you liquor.
Well, I imagine there'd be a lot of drugs and fucking going on as a carny. I mean, you're going from town to town with the same people.
And a lot of the carnies, everybody looks at them like they're perverts because they're all looking at these young girls.
Right.
Well, I was the same age as those young girls. So it was like a ripe environment for me. And I got all these prizes that I can trade away for whatever. You got some nice bud. See this big ass banana on the wall here? Hook me up. That was the only time I ever went through any stock was if I was trading for something or if I was trying to get laid. And the boss that ran all the joints, you could actually walk over and tell him, hey, this chick wants to give me a blowjob. Can you cover my joint for a while? And he'd do it. But he would ask her first, are you going to fuck this guy or not? And if she said, he'd say, no, go back to work.
So wait a minute. Let me get something straight. You've traded carny attraction prizes for weed?
Yes.
That's great. Have you ever traded sexual favors for carny prizes?
I've traded carny prizes in attempts to procure sexual favors.
Yeah. I had an opportunity to do something similar. As a truck driver, I was offered a job being a truck driver that pulled the rides. So as a truck driver, you would pull it, drop it, set it up, run it, maintain it, the whole nine. Like you were responsible for that ride. I know a buddy of mine turned me on to it, and that guy was making a lot of. You wouldn't think there's that much money in a carnival, but there is.
I never made what you'd call a lot of money, but I got by. It was better than making no money. And at that time, at 16 years old and trying to hide from the law, that was a real convenient situation.
So as an adult, have you been incarcerated?
As an adult, yes.
What's the longest stint you've ever done?
1.5 years.
What was that for?
Aggravated battery, armed violence.
Shit, you got into a fight?
Yeah.
So you caught those kind of charges from just a regular old street fight?
No, I used a blackjack on an individual, and it didn't go well.
The states that I've lived in, if you get into a fight and the guy has to go to the hospital and his hospital bills reach a certain amount of money, it then becomes a felony. Was it a felony charge?
Yes, both were.
Okay, so let's fast forward just a little bit. So, you have a good job where you have benefits and retirement packages and all kind of stuff. How does somebody with felonies acquire a job like that?
I knew someone on the inside.
Personally, like family member, or?
The girl I was living with worked there already, so she told me that this opening was going on, and she knew someone in HR, and I don't think they looked real closely.
Really? So you think you slid under the radar?
Yeah, I think so.
Which happens because I've known some women that I've been with who gain employment, and they're instructed that here's the process, and the urinalysis test is in that process. But if you go in through the back door through a temp agency, sometimes the paperwork between the temp agency and the actual company that you're getting hired on with, somewhere in that shuffle, I've known quite a few women to where they bypass the whole urinalysis, the pre-employment drug screening.
The gentleman in HR that I was dealing with was in the process of leaving the firm to go to another job.
Yeah.
So I don't think he dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. Now, there was never, this job doesn't do a pre-employment drug screening for anyone. So there was never any issue with that.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of lawyers that do coke.
Well,
They
and
don't
I've
want
and
They don't
you're
want it tested.
yeah, and I've known that I've always been in construction. So most of your construction companies have a pre-employment, but then that's it. But then the women that I've been with who have had the office jobs, on average, a majority of those office jobs don't even drug test, pre-employment drug test.
And I think less and less people are doing the random testing now. I think pre-employment is standard, and then if you get hurt, you get tested at most places. And I would assume if I got injured at work, seriously, they would probably test me as well.
Yeah.
But
and then there goes all your benefits.
Yeah, and my benefits are at this point probably worth more than my job. You know, as of January, I step into 6 weeks vacation.
Yeah, but if that did happen and you were terminated, you would still have the 401k and all the stuff that you've put into it, right? Like you don't lose the 401k if you get fired.
Yeah, no, I'm fully vested, and even the part that they've contributed, I would still get. So, and I really think if something like that happened, they would probably offer to let me go through some type of rehab program and save my job if I took the steps to do it.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if it's law, but I think your employer, if it's an addiction issue, before terminating you, they have to give you the option of some sort of rehabilitation program.
Well, and the firm that I work for prides itself on its diversity.
So you work for a lawyer, an attorney,
Yeah.
a lawyer's firm?
I work for one of the 50 largest law firms in the world.
Doing what?
I'm a records clerk, but I work in a warehouse driving an order picker with about 60,000 boxes of legal files. So
Wow.
when somebody needs something, I get on my forklift and I go out and I get it out of whatever box it's in and I check it out. And twice a day I drive downtown and make a delivery and pick up files that are coming back out and put them away and shuffle stuff around. And so I get all the perks and benefits of everyone that works for a huge law firm. But I don't get any of the office politics. I show up for work wearing shorts and a t-shirt, drive around with my earbuds in, listening to you guys' podcast all day, having a good time, and nobody fucks with me.
So you work in a warehouse environment?
I work in a warehouse environment. It's hot in the summer. It's cold in the winter. Got mice, bugs. But there's only 2 of us in this huge warehouse. And usually the other person is in the small office area, and I'm out in the warehouse by myself. So, and a lot of days I'm just out there by myself, period.
So it
works well for me. You know, I don't always play well with others, so it works well for me.
Yeah, so it's safe to say that you are a cannabis user.
Yes.
How long you been smoking?
41 years.
41 years out of 55.
41 out of 55.
You've watched the progression and the quality of cannabis progress.
The quality and the pricing.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Whenever you first started smoking, what was the going rate?
The going rate when I first started smoking was $30 an ounce. Sometimes 35, but typically 30.
An ounce?
What you buy now, if you go out and buy an eighth, when I first started smoking, that's about 3.5 grams.
Yeah.
40 to 50 bucks now. When I first started smoking, that was a nickel bag. That was $5. a dime was the same as a quarter now, and you paid $10 for that.
Wow, the good old days.
A nickel
but
was a nickel and a dime was a dime.
But I'm sure it was shit weed though, right?
It was brown and flat and seedy, and you had to work to clean it, and
Yeah.
But back then everybody smoked joints, so oftentimes you'd buy an ounce and you roll 30 joints out of it.
Yep. That's old school right here.
Sell them in the school parking lot for $1 a piece, and the rest of that ounce was yours.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's old school.
2-3 days a week, and that paid for your pot habit.
That's drug dealing 101 right there.
I'm not as old. I'm not as old as you are, but the I can't recall ever as a child seeing somebody smoke out of any kind of apparatus. The only thing that I remember, like I'm taking it back to the early '80s, was roach clips. Those were a big thing back in the day.
The first utensil I ever used, shortly after my folks got divorced and I moved into the city. The city was a town of 25,000 people. But when you've been out in the middle of the country for all your life, 25,000 people is a city.
Yeah.
So we moved into this little apartment, and there was an old abandoned car sitting out in the back lot. So as boys, 14-year-old kid, you're out there exploring inside this car, and you're sitting, and we find in the ashtray like a little hippie pipe, a little metal curved with a couple of wooden beads in it. And we're like, whoa. And it still had some pot in it. So we took that, and my brother took it and said, man, we're going to try this. I said, I've never smoked before. Okay, because I don't want to seem uncool.
No.
My brother and his friends. So, okay, we're going to smoke it. Well, then somebody else, after we smoked what was in the bowl, said, hey, I've got some more. And so
hey, let's put a crack rock in there.
That was my first time smoking pot, and it was out of a little curved, like, metal Sherlock.
Yeah. How old were you?
14.
14.
You ever tooted coke? You ever tooted cocaine?
Yes, I have.
You ever smoked a crack rock?
Yes, I have.
You ever banged a heroin needle?
I have banged more than just heroin needles.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever even seen heroin.
It's real scary.
Well, but I'm from what I gather,
it's scary because it's scary good.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've heard. But there's a black tar heroin, and then there's like a powdery white heroin.
Yeah, and I've never seen any of the black tar, never done any of that. What I did was white, and it was pretty powdery. And I've never done it on its own. We always speedballed, where you would do heroin and coke or heroin and crystal.
In the same syringe?
No, you would do like back to back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's how Chris Farley died, ain't it?
That's a roller coaster.
That's how what?
I think that's how Chris Farley died.
Speedballing? Wouldn't surprise me.
Huh.
Oh no, not Chris Farley. I'm sorry. It was Belushi. That's who it was.
That wouldn't surprise me. It's from 0 to 100 in the blink of an eye, and then jamming on the brakes. It's like being on a train where the guy just keeps full throttle, hit the brakes. And 1 minute you're ready to light the world on fire. If you could just get off the couch to go do it.
Yeah. It almost puts you in a zombie trance, don't it? You can't move.
It's got to be like what a manic depressive feels like if you fast forwarded their incidents at a high rate of speed.
So would it be safe to say that somebody who does heroin is because it deadens you on the inside for the most part, right?
Yeah.
For a time period. So I'm assuming a majority of people who do heroin are escaping from something, some mental torment.
Well, either that or from some physical pain.
Physical pain as well. Well, yeah, I could see that. Like I know that drugs in general for me, like a pot, it's I have used pot as a way to escape the shit that's going on in my life. You know what I mean? So for 30 minutes, this is back in the day when I first started smoking. You know, you remember that when it was so good and you got that big ass grin on your face, you know, when you first got high. So for 30 minutes, at least, you know, longer, of course, but at least 30 minutes, I didn't remember, you know, anything negative that was going on in my life. You know what I mean? Like I was free for that 30 minutes to an hour or whatever, however long it lasts.
See, I think a lot of pill users, when they get to the point where they can't afford the pills or they can't get them anymore, then they turn to heroin because it's cheaper and
Yeah.
it's more readily available.
Yeah.
So a lot of pain users go that route just because it's available.
Was anal big back in the day? Anal's big now, right? So I think in
Hold on. Who says anal is big right now?
porn. Porn says that, I guess. I can't watch just a regular porn where she just gets fucked in the pussy. You know what I mean? I got to see gaping assholes and shit.
I think attitudes are more relaxed about it now.
Yeah. So when I watch old school porn, you know, I often wonder, are they gagging on the cock? You know, have they been gagging on the cock way back then? And you know,
Yeah, I think the best part of the old school porn is the big hairy bush.
Yeah,
The muff afro.
Yeah, but you
That's
never
the
saw.
best part of the old school porn.
Yeah, but you never see throat gagging in any of the old porn.
No, well, you don't see much of that nowadays either.
I don't know. I see a lot of it.
I was getting ready to say you're not watching the right kind of porn, Pappy.
There's been scenes where I'll hit play on, and that's where they start at. Is, you know, throat fucking and gagging and shit. I'm like, whoa, you know, what's the story here? You know?
Well, I will say, as I've gotten older, my porn viewing has decreased considerably.
Yeah, mine too. I even go through stints where I won't watch it at all. I'll abstain. You know what I mean? Just I like to be in control. So when I find something that's getting out of control, you know, I like to play around with it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it beats me. Sometimes I win. You know what I mean?
So when you are watching porn, Pap, what is your go-to kind, style, genre? What are you going to?
I don't know as what I have any particular, you know.
Just whatever comes up?
Yeah, basically whatever pops up.
Pappy,
It ain't gonna be on long enough to really need a storyline or anything.
you ever been with a black woman?
Yes, I have.
You ever watch black porn?
No, I don't think I have actually. Well, I've seen mixed porn, but as far as all black porn, no, I don't think I ever have.
Man, what's with the cocks on them motherfuckers? Holy shit!
It's totally not fair. It's fucking so unfair.
Hey, I've seen some where it don't even look right. It looks fake.
So go do a year and a half in a state correctional facility where it's just long showers.
All right, so
with you and a whole bunch of guys, and see how long it takes to start feeling inferior.
I don't know how long you've been listening to the podcast, Pappy, but way back in the day, we had an episode, and I can't remember which one it was on, but we posed the question to one another: how many actual penises do you think you've ever seen in your life?
As a heterosexual male.
As a heterosexual male, how many live fleshy penises do you think you've ever seen in your life?
I couldn't put a number to it because of some of the prison situations that I was in. I transferred between a few facilities, and one of them was like a dormitory type facility,
right,
where it was just open showers with 30 or 40 showers and people coming and going at all times. And at that time, I had a rack that was towards the end, close to the showers. Not a great location. Well, I've seen numerous.
I told Red, excuse me. I told Red when we were having that episode because excuse me. I also went through the correctional system, and I told him I just loop all the prison penis into one big penis. So I just count that as one big one.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of doing it that way. That might be the wisest.
Yeah, you ever seen your dad's?
Yes.
So is it the
My
classic?
dad was one of those old timers that liked to sit around the house in his bathrobe and nothing on underneath of it, all sprawled out in the fucking recliner, balls to the wind, shit just flopping out there, and you never wanted to sit on that chair again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
If you didn't see
determined.
my dad's nuts twice a week, something wasn't right in the world.
Yeah, we determined that that's how a majority of men, heterosexual males, that's their first penis that they've ever seen was their dad's, because of the scenario that you just played out, and I played out that same scenario when I was talking to Red about that old school guy where he used to wear the bathrobe. You know what I mean? I actually have a bathrobe hanging up in my damn in my listen, this thing is as white as it could be, and it has my my initials in that. Sometimes I'll put that bitch on and walk around sipping on PBR.
I wear mine pretty much on a daily basis.
You do? So you're a robe guy.
Mine's quite worn and faded, and yeah, it looks like something your dad would wear. I'm
But
to that
do
point.
you-
Not only do I wear the robe, as I'm wearing right now, I wear the house slippers too.
So are you a one knot or a two knot guy on your bathrobe?
Oh, fine.
Just a one?
When I got a crap, that thing's got to come off in a hurry.
Yeah, but with a robe, you don't even have to take that motherfucker off. You just hike it up like a
You
dress.
flap behind you like a cape.
Yeah, bring it over your shoulder.
If you got to, but I prefer to take it off on the way in, or sometimes it just lands in the middle of the hallway as I'm bolting down the hall.
You ever answered the door with it just a little open, like Jehovah's Witness, or oh, excuse me, sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
I live in a secure building, so I don't have any strangers that come knocking on my door.
What do you mean a secure building? Like you have to have a passcode to get into the hallway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only people knocking on my door are like maybe the landlord, or Amazon has a code to get in for deliveries, or one of my neighbors. They don't want to see that.
Well, man, sounds like you've had a very interesting life. So at your age, they say that as you get old, you get wise. So give us young bucks and those that are listening, give us some 55-year-old wisdom. If you were on your deathbed right now and you had a son and he was, at your bedside and he asked you, Dad, tell me something that, you want your grown son to know about life in general. Like you're on your way out and you had this just one thing. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, not giving you a chance to really think about it, but what is something that some wisdom that you would pass on to your grown son on your deathbed?
Be quick to forgive. Let go of hate.
I like that.
That would be it.
Yeah. I dig that.
And I say that as a man who didn't learn that himself until late in life. And it cost me a lot of years in a lot of different situations.
Okay, so let's back up, because I wanted to talk to you about something in particular. You're also a dad. Okay,
And a grandfather.
So how many kids do you have?
I have a daughter and 2 stepsons.
So I'm assuming when you say forgive and always love or whatever, did something happen with your kids that helped you to learn that?
No, I don't think so much that.
Have you always had a good relationship with your kids?
Yeah, for the most part.
Do you
And
still
I
have-
think
even with
it's
the
better
stepkids?
now. Yeah, even with my stepkids. My ex and I have been divorced for a lot of years, and I still see them regularly. I still hear them regularly. So, yeah, I still have a real good relationship with all of them. I don't think my ex particularly likes that I do. I think it pisses her off. But, I'm still dad to them. Their situation was much like mine, where their real dad wasn't around and didn't really want to be around, and I was there. I raised them until they were 16 and 14 when my ex and I split up.
How old are they now?
They are now, oh Jesus Christ, 37 and 35.
Wow.
So
My daughter is 38 and 35. My daughter is 28.
So is there a pot of gold at the end of the fatherhood rainbow?
Yeah, there is. My relationship with my daughter is better now than it's ever been at any point in either of our lives. We're probably closer now than we've ever been. She's an amazing adult, and I've got the most amazing grandson who just couldn't ask for a better kid. She's got a great family. I couldn't be more proud of her and the person she's turned into, despite all her mother and I's flaws and fuck ups in raising her. Raising kids is hard. Man, it's hard. And
Yes.
even when you do it right, you question, am I doing it right?
Mhm.
The proof is in the pudding when they get older.
Well, there you have it. It's so there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for fatherhood. So if you've learned anything today, it's from Mr. Dorney. It's to live hard, play hard, and when you and then when you get into your golden years, you get you a nice little job with some benefits and grandkids. And you do any fishing?
I've been a few times lately. Haven't done much good, but it's always nice to get out.
So retirement is that's a thing. That's a thing at your age. You got another 10 years, huh?
I'm hoping 10 and out. I don't know if I'll quite make that or not, but we'll see.
Are you healthy, or do you visit the doctor's office?
I do. I've just been through a whole battery of tests, and everything came back actually better than expected.
Nice.
A few normal issues for this age. I'm up 3 or 4 times a night to piss. I got a little bit of enlarged prostate and that kind of stuff. But I take a pill for that, and actually at this age I'm pretty good. I didn't from 30 to 40. I didn't feel any different.
Yeah.
From 40 to 50, slightly, but I still didn't really notice much drop off. From 50 to now,
I'm reminding you.
my Alexa's telling me to take my medicine. From 50 to now, the decline has been steep.
I'm reminding you.
Just in the way you feel physically, and the aches and pains, and then the memory, and then the eyesight suddenly getting rapidly worse. It all, from 50 on, has surprised me how rapidly things have changed.
So it sounds like it's because my 30s and my 40s have been my best years. I'm in the best shape of my life right now. But all the things that you've mentioned at 40, I'm 43. I already have to wear reading glasses. I'm that guy now that has to pass the receipt to the wife and let her put the tip on it, because I can't tell if it's a 3 or an 8. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah.
I got a pair here. I got a pair in the car. I got a pair on the desk at work. I have them everywhere.
Yeah.
I have the little pair that folds up into a little bitty case you can drop in your pocket and carry with you.
Yeah,
I can't read the menu.
Yeah,
I go out and eat, I can't read.
A guy at my church pulled one of those out. It was in a little case, and it was like he extended out the arms of the glasses and everything. I was like, look at this nifty.
You know why I got those? Because I was out fishing recently, and I got snagged and broke my line and couldn't see well enough to tie the knot.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that's it. I'm buying some of them, and they stay in the tackle box, and I always got them. I had to quit for the evening because I couldn't retie a lure on. It's like, oh, I'm done. I'm going home.
Well, you enjoy these golden years, man. You deserve it.
I am. And who knows what's going to happen over the next few years. Right now I'm enjoying life. I'm traveling more than I ever have. I feel pretty good about where I'm at. Could be better, could be worse.
Sounds like you're living the dream.
I'm doing all right. I've got some amazing friends. I got brothers like you guys. Life is good.
Yeah. Well, we love you, and we're thankful that you came on and kind of let us do this interview real quick. We find you to be an interesting character, so we hope the listeners do too.
Yeah. We ain't even scratched the tip of the iceberg yet.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll have you on for part 2.
Yeah, we might have to do that. I can tell you some stories from hitchhiking, talking my way out of restaurants where I'd gone in and ate a big meal and didn't have a dime to my name. Repeated incidents like that.
All right, well, we'll get together.
And that's a lot of years in between. I spent 3 terms as a local union president with the United Steelworkers. I spent 16 years working in a factory. I've done all kinds of things. I worked in a law library in prison. I spent 6 months in the same facility as John Wayne Gacy when I was 18 years old.
Wow. Yeah, we definitely. Yeah, let's. We're gonna end it here because that's a lot. That's a lot to go through in a 45-minute to an hour podcast. So check this out. We'll have you on for part 2. So everybody stay tuned. And on behind closed doors, we'll reach out to you. We'll talk about all that stuff, and we'll have you on for a part 2. Sound good?
Sounds good. To give a shout out to my girl Sarah over in the UK because you'll probably have an international listener for this episode.
Nice. What's up, Sarah?
Hi, bro.
Yeah. Keep this guy in check now. That old saying, behind every good man is a great woman.
She's a great one.
Good. All right. Well, there it is. Another episode, Conversations with Paycheck and Red. That's all the time we have for tonight. So, see ya.
Later.
Love you guys.
Love you too, brother.
You've been listening to the Conversations with Paycheck and Red podcast. Check out Paycheck and Red on Facebook at Paycheck and Red, Instagram at Paycheck and Red Podcast, and Twitter at Paycheck and Red. And don't forget, paycheckandred.com, where you can buy merch, you can subscribe to the podcast, and you can listen to the podcast.